We're up in the practice area now to watch some of the top riders as they practice their riding skills. I'm standing in the entrance to section number 12 for Sunday's event. Andrew Codina from Spain, riding the gas. And the number you see right below the country signifies how that rider is ranked in that country. Each year, just like the U.S., the country has national championships, and this is how they place in that country's ranking. Philippe Berladier from France is France's number 3 rider. The Trials Club owns about 5 acres of land along and over the top of this hillside, and it provided a very good practice area for the riders, as well as providing some very good sections for Sunday's event. Young rider to keep your eye on here, Amos Bilbao from Spain. He's 18 years old, former bicycle champion of Spain. He could break into the top 10 rankings this year, and if he keeps this style of riding up, next year he's almost sure to be. Here's a group of rocks just a little further up from where we just were that provided all kinds of challenging lines for the riders. One thing about this terrain that I'd like to bring out is that as long as the rocks and the soil were dry, there was a lot of traction. But when they were wet, the rock was the type of rock that became very slick. The traction's very hard to find. Here's another real talented rider from France, Thierry Girard. He's been just right behind Thierry Michaud in the French championships. He's one of the only riders left running the 250 Yamaha. Thierry's 21 years old. As you can see here, he's a very skilled and talented rider. Here's the man who started all the trick riding, Eddie Lejeune from Belgium. He was the Belgium champ from 1980 to 1986. and the World Observed Trials champion in 1982, 1983, and 84. Most of his career he's been on a Honda, and he started his trials career on a Montesa 25. And he rode about 9 different models of the Honda, and this is his first year on the Merlin, and he's doing a very good job on it. He's also the oldest rider presently riding World Trials in the top 10. He's 27 years old. Here's another very talented rider, 1987 world champion Jordi Terrace, 21 years old. He's also held the Spanish #1 title in 1986 and 1987. Jordi's always been very impressive with his clutch work and his sense of balance. Here's another talented rider from Italy, Donato Miglio. He's also 21 years old. He started his riding on a Fanuc 50, and he's more or less ridden a different bike every year, going then to a Bultaco, an SWM, a Montesa. Last year he was on a Gorelli. Riding the new Fanuc this year, and I think he's found a home on it. He's riding very well. Here's France's #1 rider, Thierry Michaud, riding the new Fanick this year. Thierry has been France's champion since 1983, and he also won the World Championship in 1985 and 1986. Thierry's 24 years old. We're up on top of the hill now that Jordy just rode up to watch Daniel cross it from Belgium, and Jordy do some real impressive riding here on these railroad ties. Daniel is another ex-bicycle trials champion. He's riding the new Merlin here. He's doing a good job on this bike, and he could break into the top 10 ranking this year and next also. He's 21 years old. Here's a hard maneuver to try sometime. That impressed quite a few of the people standing up here watching. Here's 23-year-old Steve Saunders from England, riding the new prototype Fanick this year. Steve's been the champion of England since 1983, and he's always placed very high in world standings His highest was second in 1986. And maybe this is the year he'll win the #1 world plate. Here's a quick look at Diego Bozes from Italy. He's presently ranked #2 in world competition. And he's the youngest rider in the top 10, just turning 20 this year. He's been the Italian champion since 1986. We're just 50 miles south of Scotland, or about a 6-hour drive to the northwest of London. This was the only practice area available here at the trial site. None of the top 10 riders have arrived yet. They usually like to practice on Saturday morning right before the technical inspection. But in England, the weather in March can change almost instantly. By the time we returned to the start-finish area after watching these riders, it had turned windier, colder, and started snowing. Saturday's weather was cold and windy with heavy rain and snow showers passing over. Not a good day for practice riding. So let's take a look at these two riders, Marco Riet, Holland's #1 rider, and Erik Brandauer, the #1 rider from Austria. In case you're new to the sport of trials, here's some information about these special motorcycles being ridden in this event. The Beta shown here weighs about 178 pounds compared to the Fanic's 180. Its wheelbase is 52 inches compared to the Fanic's 51.6. They both use the new Malasek front forks, which work a bit different in that the left fork controls the compression dampening and the right fork controls the rebound dampening. The insides of the forks are upside down, which means when you take off the top cap, the cartridge is at the top and the spring is at the bottom. This design eliminates the twisting forces and allows the front wheel to respond to bumpy terrain quicker. Both bikes use Brembo disc brakes on the front and back and are very strong and responsive. The rear shock on both bikes is adjustable for compression and rebound dampening. Compared to last year's models, these new bikes have made many changes that greatly improve their performance. The Beta is a quicker handling bike with a lower center of gravity and might be better suited for trick riding. The Fanic is better for a tall person because the foot pegs are lower and further back and the fork crown is a bit higher. They both have very quick revving, air-cooled engines. These two bikes, as well as the Aprilia, which we'll look at later on in the video, are available in this country. One other bike that is also a very comparable machine is the Gas, which is made in Spain and is sold in England by John Shirt. This bike may be available through the trial shop in Florida since they deal with the Shirt company. The Merlin is no longer being made as that company was bought by the Gas company, and they have no plans to produce it anymore. We shot a lot of video of the riders practicing in the 4 days prior to the event. We also did some interviews with a few of the top riders. We asked the current world champ Thierry Michaud if he was going to do anything different this year and also what the competition was going to be like.
No, I don't think so anyway. I think this year will be the other rider are always the same. I think we have five riders riding very well with Jordi Tarres, Donato Miglio, Diego Bozzi, Steve Sanders and me. And I am still riding for Fantic. I have more or less the same bike of last year. The only difference is last year it was a prototype and now it seems to be a standard bike, and I'm very happy about my bike. I think I ride in a good condition. And last year I started very well my season, and Jordi Tarres started not very bad, but bad I think for him, and I take many points in front. And this year I think it's different because Jordi Tarres has already won one Grand Prix in Italy. And I think it will be very, very difficult for me because I'm still more old every year, of course, and they are riding, the young rider, they are running very well. And Jordi Tarres wants to win again the title, and it will be still more and more difficult for me.
How do you feel about stadium trials events? You missed some last year because of the broken thumb. Do you like riding stadium trials?
Yes, me I think is interesting. Many people think that it's interesting for the rider only for the money. Me, I don't think like that because for many other reasons. First reason, I think it will be more and more popular, the stadium trial, and it's good for the rider and also for the factory to win, because we make this stadium trial in the big cities. There is always a television, and for the publicity for the public is better. Yes. They see, perhaps sometimes they appreciate, it's more easy to appreciate the technique of the riders in stadium trial. And also now the stadium trial is becoming very, very technical. Yes. And also if we don't have a problem of grip, to find the grip, because there is always a good grip. Yes. But it's very technical, and I think it's a good practice also for the World Championship, because now outside trial are almost similar of stadium trial. Then practicing a lot in making stadium trial in winter, and also now during all the year anyway. I think it's not bad to keep the technique and for practice. The only problem is a little more dangerous than natural trial, and it's don't fall and don't break something.
Do you practice quite a bit?
Me, I'm not practicing. I never practice a lot because I don't want to be full of riding. For me, it's very important to practice, perhaps just a little, but a good practicing, not only practice to say I have practiced in 3 or 4 or 5 hours. Me, perhaps I practice only 1 hour, but I think it's a good result of my practice. Not a smart practice, but I think I don't like to practice too much, because after on a Sunday when you have to ride, if you practice too much, for me, for myself, if I practice too much, after I don't want to ride anymore.
How important is your brother Freddie when he helps you? Is it very important to have a good helper rider?
Yes, I think first of all, he's making his job very, very well. Like perhaps only a few followers make the same already. And for me, I think it's very important overall psychologically, because my brother know me like nobody know me, because yes. he's 25 years old, he know me. Yes. He's 25 years, he know me, and he know me better than anybody. And I think he know exactly what he has to do with me, what he has to tell me, he know exactly my reaction. He's very, in any case, he knows what he has to do, and this is very important for me. And to have my brother also close of me, like to have my wife, is very important for me, because in trial, like in many sports, the psychology is very important, and to have a strong, not temper, but a good brain is always better.
How about the Fennec? How's that working this year? It's a change from last year's model. This year's is more lighter, and is it working good?
Yes, of course. Me, I'm very happy about my bike. I think it's, if I say it's the best bike, many people don't believe me because they think and I tell that because I'm employed by Fantic, but I think with the 3 rider we have a very good bike. Anyway, with this bike you can win the stadium, you can win in England, in the mud, in the dry, everywhere.
Do you think Fennec will come out with a water-cooled engine like the Betas and Preys? Do you feel they need it?
I don't know. This it will be good. You ask to Mr. Agrati or to Dario Sereni, the boss of the race service. It's not me. I will not decide.
How much longer do you plan on riding?
I don't know. This is, of course, a question I asked to myself many times. I don't know the answer, but depend of how many years or how many time I can be in the first in the best riders. I don't know. Normally, now I think I will ride until I will be in best rider. But depend. I see many riders now riding and never stop because they live of the trail and they can't leave the trail circus. And I don't know, I don't want to tell something because I don't know what will be my future. Depend, if this year I'm world champion, it can change something, and if this year I finish 5th or 6th or 10th, I don't know what happened. This will change my future for sure. If in 2 or 3 years I will be still in the best rider, I will continue. If in 3 years I will be in the 15th or 20th, I don't know what happened. Depend on my result first of all.
What do you plan on doing after you retire? When you quit, stay with Fantic, maybe
no,
develop?
Yes, I like this kind of job. Depend. First of all, you must think that depend on the money, of course. If Fantic pay me to make another job, and I think it's a good job for me, I like to stay in a trail or in a motorcycle jobs or work. Or also work for the French Federation, or I don't know what. But I think I will do that if I have a job.
Do you have any advice for the American riders? The young riders coming up now?
No, I think the most important is necessary, and in USA is a good rider to help to pull all the other riders in. Within the problem for an American rider is necessary to come like he has done Bernie Schreiber, and he has to come in Europe because most of the events are in Europe. The problem is difficult to learn and to know. It's difficult for an American rider if he doesn't look at the best rider at the moment who are European. It's difficult for him alone to be very good. I don't know. It's like in the contrary of the cross in motocross. I think it's good for a European rider to come in USA to learn from US rider. It will be good to come in Europe to learn, and after it's okay.
Okay, well, Terry, good luck tomorrow, and thanks for the interview. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome.
Back in the practice area, the riders have ridden this big slippery rock about every way possible. Notice the loose rocks of all sizes on the ground and the slick, smooth surface of the large ones. This is typical of the terrain around here. There's just not a whole lot of traction, even when dry, so the riders were doing a lot of practicing to try to get used to this type of surface. Also, this is the driest it would be. The sections for Monday would be a lot wetter thanks to the Friday night rain. We asked number 4 ranked Steve Saunders how he felt about his practice.
Well,
During the first lot of practice I wasn't too happy with the way I was riding, but today I've had a bit of practice and I'm very pleased. Just done a few modifications around about, and yeah, I'm looking, well, feeling quite good.
How's the new Fanic working now? Do you like the new bike?
Yeah, it's good. It's a lot lighter than the previous bikes, and the suspension's better, and you know, generally the whole bike's a lot better all through, and it makes it a lot easier to do trick riding on it, and big steps, and well, just everything's easier to ride with it.
This is almost like your backyard, these wet, slippery rocks here. Are you comfortable with these type of sections?
Well, I prefer, for me, you know, if it's actually just mud, then it's really good. I mean, for me, then it's not easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier. But with actually slippery rocks, I don't really ride that well on really slippery rocks. So I'm hoping it's going to dry out just a little bit for tomorrow.
Does it require a considerably different technique when you're riding on slippery stuff like this?
Well, I think you have to be very smooth and flowing very well, and I like to correct my line quite a bit. I can't seem to keep my line all the way up the section, so I like to go slower and correct my line.
How do you like the stadium trials in Southern Europe? You've ridden a few of them. What are your comments on this?
Yeah, I've ridden quite a few stadium trials, and they're excellent for promoting the sport. But at the moment, I think they're going just a little bit over the top with the sections. Not how difficult they are, but the height, and they're pretty dangerous now. And I think they should concentrate more on being more difficult, but not quite so dangerous.
Do you feel that maybe the indoor events are becoming more popular in Europe now?
Well, certainly for the television, it's very easy for them to set up 4 or 5 cameras in there, and you've got everything. Whereas you go to a normal trial, and to cover a trial properly, you've got to have a hell of a lot of cameras and a hell of a lot of people, you know, carrying those cameras around to get all the top riders on all the sections, if that's what you wanted to do. And then a stadium trial, you're only out there, you only ride for 15 minutes, maximum, and that's good again for television. It's on, it's quick, and it's a lot of action whilst you're out there.
How do you mentally psych yourself up for a world round event?
Well, you don't really need to psych yourself up too much, because everything that's there at the end of it is what psychs you up. I mean, if you want to be world champion, which everybody who's come from Europe to here wants to be world champion, then that's the goal that we're all going at. So if you don't ride well, you're not going to get that goal.
You're, I believe, second in points right now, and second place.
Yeah.
How do you feel your riding is going this year so far? Maybe the new Fanic is helping you. Do you look for maybe a real good year this year?
Well, you obviously hope for a good year every year, but this year I don't feel that I've ridden particularly brilliant at any time during the year, just consistent. To win the Scottish a couple of weeks ago, I didn't ride particularly brilliant. I was just very consistent, and I feel now that I could be coming onto form a little bit, and hope I am to come and just ride that a little bit better, which will give you the edge.
You won the Scottish 6-day last month. How was that event this year?
Well, it was a fairly poor event really for what the Scottish normally is. The first day was complete and utter shambles. They were unfortunate, I suppose, with the weather, because they had to lengthen the course by 5 miles on the first day, which meant that virtually everybody ran out of petrol. And they were all pushing the bikes across the moors, and the time was too tight. And then when everybody had finished, nobody knew whether the time was to stay or the time was out. Every day it seemed to change, or even sometimes twice a day it would change, and they just didn't really know what they were doing organisation-wise, unfortunately. But after the first day it was not so bad then.
Do you have any advice for the U.S. riders, some of the young riders coming up now in the U.S.?
Well, I think that the hardest thing for them is the fact that they're in the US so far from Europe. To see what's going on. Any country that doesn't know what's going on outside of their country, if you like, then it's very difficult for anybody to progress. But I suppose with videos and watching the videos and just generally practicing, and the few riders that come over for the TDN at the end of the year, then they're obviously, I suppose, the best riders that are in America. So at least the best riders get a chance, even if it's only once a year, to see what's going on.
Well, good luck to you tomorrow, Steve.
Thanks.
Appreciate the interview.
You're welcome.
Let's take a look at the new era technology, or the water-cooled bikes, as Jordy and Dagobozis on the Aprilia do a bit of practicing.
molto sbagliare. Il problema è dopo qua.
Since this was the only practice area, we had a great opportunity to video just about all of the riders as they came out to practice on these rocks. You might notice that some of the top riders will make a practice section so difficult that they can hardly get through it, while other riders just seem to practice the basics in simpler sections. We'll show you most of these rides, with some shown in slow motion. The rider information shown with each different rider tells his name, country he is from, and the make of bike he is riding. And the number below the country is how that rider is ranked in his country. For instance, Jordi Terrace shown here is Spain's #1 ranked rider. Jordi, who is ranked #2 in the world, is riding a new water-cooled beta prototype. He won rounds 3 and 4 in Italy and the U.S. and would like nothing better than to win back his #1 plate that he held in 1987. On the other hand, the #1 rider, Thierry Michaud, 3-time world champ in 85, 86, and 88, desperately wants to hang on to that #1 plate and become the first 4-time world champion. But don't count on Diego Bozes or Steve Saunders or any of the other top 15 riders. Any one of these could have a good day and finish in first place here today, like Thierry Girard did in the French round last year. This new beta that Jordi is riding has a number of changes on it compared to the standard air-cooled one. The two biggest ones are the water cooling system and the new aluminum box frame, in which the main backbone also cleverly doubles as a gas tank and has very strong, thick sides, so now a rider won't have to worry about dropping this bike on its side in the rocks. Jordi really seems to be riding this new bike well. It just looks like he can balance it better, so we asked him if there were any big changes in the frame geometry.
No, change also a little bit. The positions of the motor is different now. It's a little bit different, and it's more good because I have more equilibrium, more easy to make equilibrium, to more balance.
To balance, yes.
Yeah, and after also when I make big
ledge.
Yeah, it's all the time more. It's more easy, you know.
Here's a slow motion look at Jordi's technique. His front wheel just hits the rock, he unloads, and his body stays in one position as he lifts the bike up underneath him.
adesso c'è il falco che ha proprio sul tasso,
Here's Jordy's mechanic and business manager enjoying a nice day. And the Fanick team just arrived. Freddie Michaud on the left, Theory, and Steve Saunders. Let's take a look at 19-year-old Amos Bilbao's technique on this sledge. He uses lots of throttle and a real good unload right here to get him up to the top of this sledge. And right here, as soon as he hits, he pulls the clutch and coasts up. We had a chance to talk to Peter John during practice and asked him if there was a difference between the terrain here as compared to Finland.
I don't think about the stones, I only think about the ground. The ground is similar, so it gets the same kind of slippery as in Finland. The stones, when you get the mud over the stones, it's similar as in Finland.
What were your comments about the U.S. round in Tennessee last weekend?
They had really good sections, I think. Some of them were really perfect for World Championship rounds. Not too bad and not too difficult, and no dangerous sections, because they had in the big waterfall they had the catcher up with the rope,
right.
And that's good, because you know then that somebody's going to catch your bike, not
yes.
you. Just take care of yourself. And the time was short, I think. The sections were so long that when one driver drove the sections, he made maybe 5 or 6 minutes in the section, and that made it really tight in the end.
Do you have any advice for young riders in the U.S. now?
I would think that they would think about thinking about trials. Not just drive and practice and practice. They would more concentrate on what they are doing with the bike and what they should do with the bike when they drive. That's a problem, because I've only learned it maybe 1 year ago when I made the 10th position. I learned what was wrong in my driving. I was driving some places well and some really bad, and then it came click. That's a problem. And now I'm just improving. I know Thierry is very good at it. He's the best with doing that kind of thinking in sections.
Yes.
And Jordi, he's more
Ability.
he's more ability in driving. He's really good at it. And I think the best is in between those both. You have to have heart and brains in driving.
When you walk a section and you're walking through it, what are you thinking about? You're concentrating very much on the section, I know. But what are you thinking when you walk through a section?
I try to get all the things that are in the section in my mind and make them into one line. So this is bad. This is really difficult. What should I do? What shall I make in this? What shall I try? And then the next place, and then the next place. I make it in pieces, the section.
Does a section ever scare you? Are you ever...
Yeah. Maybe when I look at it, shit, that's really big. And but when I get onto the bike, I don't think about it. If you start to think about that, then you can't drive anymore.
After the riders tracked all the mud up on these rocks, this little practice section turned out to be one of the hardest ones here. Notice all the clutch work Jordi is doing right here to help keep himself balanced. Jordi and some of the other riders tried a number of times to get up that ledge, but each time didn't make it because it was so slippery. So here Jordi went over to this rock and made like a drag racer and heated his tire up. He's about to go try it again, and you can see the results of what happened after he did this. We also had a chance to talk to 17-year-old Tommi Avola from Finland, the new factory team Aprilia rider, and we asked him how he got so good so fast.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the one reason is that I began when I was 6, and when I drove last year, first year in World Run, I was only 16 and already drive 10 years with motorcycles. So maybe that was one reason. And also I got good factory team behind me, and now maybe that's also one reason.
How did you get started in trials riding?
Well, my father has tried enduro when he was young, and my brother started trial when he was 12 years old. Now he's 23, and maybe I follow him.
Have you done any other type of riding?
No, in winter sometimes I try enduro a little, but mostly trial.
You have to be very aggressive on these world round sections. You have to really attack them. What's the hardest part about riding these world round sections?
Maybe you have to think that you can drive maybe some big step, and you have to believe that you can drive.
How did you get selected to be a rider for the Aprilia team?
Well, my first round in Spain last year was 20. It was very good because it was first world run, and then I got first point in Luxembourg, and then many factories started to ask me if I would like to be with their team, and first tried Bantic and Honda, Terza, and then in Belgium also Aprilia asked, and I think that I thought already then that maybe Aprilia team would be the best team for me, and then we made.
Okay, so they signed you to a contract for 1 or 2 years?
2 years.
What is riding in Finland like? Are many rocks?
It's quite similar like in USA a week ago, and quite slippery and many rocks, but also quite big hills, mostly rocks.
What are your plans for the future?
Well, I hope that I can make better results than now, but I don't promise anything. I try as best I can.
When he does it right, he sure does.
The practice riding you have just been watching was shot on Thursday and Friday. It's Saturday afternoon now, and some of the riders here have just completed the technical inspection of their bikes and found these 3 large, well-placed logs to be a good challenge to their trick riding skills. And notice how each rider will add something to the practice section to make it just a bit harder. Jordy had a little problem with his gas tank cap seal, but his mechanics very promptly fixed it. Welcome to Globe, Arizona for the third round of the 1990 World Observed Trials Championship Series. There's a lot of great riding going on here this weekend and also on the next 2 hours in this video, so let's just go right into some of the practice riding that the top world riders were doing in the several days before Sunday's event. Globe, Arizona is about a 2-hour drive east of Phoenix on Highway 60. It's on the south end of the Superstition Mountain Range and is right in the middle of one of the largest copper mining areas in the U.S. There's nothing but rocks of all sizes in any direction you look, and Trials Master Ron Somm and his fellow members of the Central Arizona Trials Club did an outstanding job of setting up 16 visually awesome sections that had many people wondering if they could even be ridden. But after watching the top riders practicing on these rocks and seeing what they are capable of doing with the new technology bikes and riding techniques, the organizers started thinking that maybe the sections were going to be too easy. So, a few changes in some of them were made, and in the next few hours, we'll see how the riders fared in these dry and very technically challenging sections. Practicing here are the top 2 riders for the Aprilia Motorcycle Trials team, 18-year-old Tommy Avila, Finland's #1 rider, and also ranked number 6 in the world, and Italy's #1 rider, 22-year-old Diego Bozes, who is ranked number 3 in world competition. We'll also take a look at a few of the other top riders before the event starts, so you can get an idea of what these super talented riders can do with their bikes. These Arizona rocks are providing a great amount of traction for the tires, and you'll see the riders taking much advantage of this in the following practice and during Sunday's event. Here's a much improved rider this year, 18-year-old Robert Crawford, who is actually from Ireland and was that country's #1 rider last year. He moved to England to be on Steve Saunders' beta team and finished 8th overall in his new country. .22-year-old Daniel Crossett is the new man on the Aprilia Trials team this year. He's a former bicycle trials champ and has held the #1 Belgian plate for the last 2 years. Here's Italy's #1 rider, 22-year-old Diego Bozes. He won the Italian Championship in 1986, 87, and 89. He just barely lost it to Fanuc team rider Donato Emilio in 1988 by only 2 points. 26-year-old Peter Jan was Finland's champ from 1984 through 1988. Last year, Peter lost the Finnish championship by just a few points when his chain broke in the last section of the last event, giving the title to 18-year-old Tommy Avila. Peter is planning on retiring from world competition at the end of this year. The Aprilia team was really good at locating difficult practice sections, so we followed them around for a while. Here, Tommy found a deep V in the rocks, which doesn't look like it would be too hard to get across, but then sometimes looks can be very deceiving, especially when these top riders can make everything they do look so smooth and easy. Again, Tommy finds a very difficult practice rock that has a high undercut step to get up first. A lot of technique, which requires jumping the bike up with the throttle, and body unloading and lifting is used here. Diego was the only rider who could do this, and we'll show a few of his rides in slow motion so you can get a better look at the technique he uses. Here you can see how Diego lowers his body, lifts the front end of the bike with throttle, and then unloads upward and forward. As the rear wheel hits, he lifts the bike and uses clutch to prevent rear wheel spin and to let his body catch up to the bike. Then he recenters his weight and rides up the rock. Since 1983, 25-year-old Steve Saunders has been the English champion, and this also is the last year he will ride in world competition. He will continue to ride in England, and his goal is to break the 11-year string of English victories presently held by Sammy Miller, who from 1959 through 1969 held the #1 English plate. Steve has ridden more different brands of bikes than anyone else in world competition, and since this is his first year on the Beta, we asked him what he thought of it so far.
I'm very pleased with the bike. The bike's performing very well. Just at the moment, I'm still sort of trying to get used to the bike and making too many mistakes. That's my real problem at the moment.
We also asked him what differences there were between this bike and the works bike that he rides back in England.
Well, at home I have a factory bike which has got a slightly different engine producing more power, but this bike here is completely standard, so it's down on power compared with the bike at home.
Spain's #1 rider, and also the 1987 and 1989 World Trials champion, 23-year-old Jordi Terrace just arrived for practice. As U.S. champ for the last 2 years, 22-year-old Ryan Young prepares to ride up a large rock step. Jordi has been the Spanish champ since 1986 and also holds the record for the most indoor trials won, 151 victories. He presently is one of the best trick riders in the world, although several other riders are currently getting close and occasionally will defeat him if he is having one of those bad days. 20-year-old Amos Bilbao from northern Spain just could be one of the riders that will give Jordy some heated competition in the next few years. Since he got on the Fanick team this year, his running has really improved, and he can do most of the tricks that Jordy can. Look for some top finishes from Amos, as well as Finland's Tommy Avola in the future. A technique called the splatter technique has come into use a lot in the last year. To enable a bike to get up on a large rock or step, a small launching rock, or something similar, is located generally about 2 bike lengths from the main obstacle. Then usually third gear, moderate speed, and a lot of unloading over the launch point with the front wheel held high will land the rear wheel first on top of the main obstacle. But if this technique isn't done correctly, well, you can then see where the term splatter comes from. Afterward, we had a chance to talk to Amos through our main interpreter, Raymond Aguirre. We asked him how much he practices back in Spain.
2 hours a day. Solo by himself. Okay, he says when you practice by yourself, you can practice for 2 hours. But when you practice with somebody else, you practice 3 hours. If you practice with a third guy, you practice 6 hours. It's a lot better to practice by yourself for 2.
We also asked him how he's getting along with the new Fanick.
He says that he's got one more year with Panic, and he feels very comfortable on the bike, and he's still trying to get used to the new one. That's why, you know, he dabs erratically at times. He feels real good on. Te sientes muy bueno en esta moto. He feels real good on the bike.
Spain's number 3 rider, 25-year-old Gabino Renales, rode his first world round back in 1982 when he was 17. He said these new Montesas are working real well, but there will be some big changes on the bike for next year. "17-year-old Xavier Puig was one of the top youth riders in Spain in the last few years, and this is his first year in the big leagues riding the world rounds. He also is very good with the trick riding because for most of the young riders now, this is the only style of riding they know." Frenchman Thierry Girard almost does a bicycle-style 360 on his Montesa as he heads out to practice. There were quite a few practice areas around here for the riders, and in the next 3 days we were able to video a lot of the various riders practicing their techniques and getting used to this wet and slippery terrain. So, in the next 20 minutes, we'll show you some of the best rides. Practice is where you'll see the riders doing their wildest and most unbelievable maneuvers when experimenting with a technique or a different line in a practice section in order to adjust to different riding conditions. The practice you're watching now was being done late Wednesday afternoon on the rocks around the start-finish area. It was the last time the rocks would be somewhat dry until late afternoon Saturday. Just after the sun went down, a steady light rain that was ahead of an approaching cold front started falling and didn't stop until Saturday morning. But, like in England in 1989, the rain helped to make this event a better one. The sections would be almost perfect for the riders on Sunday. On the screen, along with each rider, you'll see his name, country he is from, make of bike he is riding, and his ranking in his country. His world ranking can be seen on his number plate or on the jersey he will be wearing during the event Sunday. This practice area has some real neat slippery rocks that the riders needed to tune up their clutch and throttle techniques. And as you can see, it's going to be a rainy day. Back in 1986, when this club hosted the World Round, this rock pile was then a section ridden about the same way as the riders are doing it now. Only then it was very dry for the event, and even then the top riders found it very difficult to ride these rocks. But now, 4 years later, with the new technology bikes and riding style, this section has become almost too easy, even when wet. Tommy Avila was only 14 and still in school back in 1986, but had thoughts of being one of the best trials riders in the world. Now, 4 years later, he is the Finnish champion and ranked number 6 in the world. We asked him how he liked the U.S. round last week.
Yeah, it was a lot of different than first two races in Ireland and England, because in Arizona there was a lot of traction and it was incredibly hot and there was no water at all, water sections. I liked it because I like to drive in hot weather. Even, I don't know, I'm born in Finland, but I like very hot weather, and that was okay for me. And also sections were like in indoor trials, so it was also okay for me.
I notice all the riders this year are getting very good. The bikes are becoming better and the techniques are becoming much better. Do you practice very much in all this?
Yeah, I drive quite a lot with motorcycles, normally 5 or 6 days a week, and every day 3 or 4 hours. And mostly I only try with the bikes. I don't make a lot of gymnastic or try to get my muscles bigger, but I drive it very much with my motorcycles.
The new Aprilia this year seems to be working very well. Did they make some changes on the bike that make it work better for you?
Yeah, last year we had quite near like standard bikes, and from last year to this year we have made a lot of little changes. There's nothing concrete like engine different or something, but a lot of little changes. And this year, this first bike that I have built like I want. And maybe that's the one reason why it works for me very good.
Well, very good. Thanks for interviewing and good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks.
Amos is about to make this entrance rock quite a bit harder by stopping in front of this helper rock and then using the spider technique to land on the big one. Let's watch this and then we'll look at it in slow motion. This technique is almost always done in a higher gear like second or third, depending on how much speed, traction, and distance is required to make the jump. Amos is in second, pulls in the clutch, balances, revs up the engine to around 3/4 its max RPM, starts to lower his body, then simultaneously dumps the clutch, wide open on the throttle, and a big unloading jump forward as if he were going to jump onto the big rock without his bike. Once airborne, the throttle is closed and the clutch is pulled as the rear wheel lands on the big rock and brakes are used as needed. Let's take a look at Donato's technique. You'll see it's about the same as what Amos does. This is the only way it can be done. world champion just showed up, and he's going to make the line through this section just a bit harder, as you'll see here shortly. Midday Friday, and Jordy is practicing a muddy turn up over a slippery ledge and then up a long hill. He's doing the turn in second and then shifts to third for the ledge and the hill climb. Notice the throttle and clutch technique that he uses to get traction. He rode this about 30 times before he finally figured out how to do it, and then he could get through it with a 1 or 2 and sometimes a clean.
Okay, Bill, you're next.
fly up though?
No, I drove up. Really? I brought all the panic bikes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm
really happy. Really? Yeah. Right, sail right there. Yeah.
I got dinged when I brought my bike up.
On the other side of this hill, we found Steve Saunders from England practicing. We asked him what he thought of the first 3 rounds so far.
The first round for me wasn't so good. The result wasn't as good as I'd expected, but the event was very good. Good organisation and good sections as well. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't as good as it could have been, but it was reasonable for the time of the year. In England, we were fortunate with the weather. The weather wasn't too bad. We just had a little bit of rain, but the organisation again was fairly good. But the sections, we had a problem with the sections because they were a little bit too long and the riders were taking too long to get through the sections, which meant we had a great time problem on the last lap. So most of the riders on the last lap were really struggling to get in on time, and for that reason they were losing a lot of marks as well. Arizona, I thought the organisation was pretty good. The sections were good also, but there was no real variation of section. They were all exactly the same turns, up a big rock, all very dry, which it would have been nice to have seen some variation of sections, but you know, the sections weren't bad at all really. Quite enjoyed it. Tomorrow, if it's anything like 1986 when I was here before, it'll be a very good event. Here, the beauty of being here is they've got virtually every type of section you could wish for. The dryish rocks, mud, trees, streams, everything. So I anticipate it to be a very good event.
How are you doing in the English rounds this year?
Well, in the British Championships, we've had 2 rounds so far, and I've won both of the rounds, with Robert Crawford being the main rival. He finished 2nd in the first round and 4th in the second round. So the second round was a bit of a disaster for Robert, but you know, I was quite pleased to see him lose a few points to me. It helped me along a bit.
I understand you're going to do a couple of trial schools in the U.S. this year?
I was approached last week to do one in Texas and one in Los Angeles, so I hope so, yeah.
Hey Steve, good luck to you tomorrow.
Thanks very much.
The practice ride you just watched was by Amos Bilbao, Spain's #2 rider, and who is also ranked #8 in world competition. Now let's take a look at Mark Colomer, the new kid from Spain. He just turned 15 last month and won't be able to ride in world competition for several more years. But in local events around Spain, lately he's been finishing very close to Jordi Terrace the Spanish and world champion. He practices frequently with these top riders, and when he does start world competition, watch for him to finish in the top 10 right away. USA's 8th-ranked rider Jeff Aaron just graduated from high school this spring and had the great opportunity to spend the summer over here in Europe trials riding. He teamed up with New Zealand's #1 rider Stefan Merriman, and together they traveled around in a motorhome sightseeing and riding various local and world-round events. Now let's take a look at 23-year-old Jordi Terrace, the present Spanish and also world champion, as he practices in these big rocks. Another member of the Beta Trials team is Frenchman Philippe Baladier. At 25 years of age, he is one of the older riders still competing in world events. Ranked #2 in France, behind Thierry Michaud, he just might get the #1 plate back next year, since Thierry is recovering from a severely broken lower left leg, and his riding performance next year will be questionable. Philippe can speak English pretty good when he wants to, and we had a chance to get an interview with him during a break in the practice riding. We'll give that later on in this video. Here's Italy's top rider and #3 ranked world rider, 22-year-old Diego Bozes. This will be his last year for him to ride the Aprilia. Yesterday, he signed a 2-year contract to ride for the Fanuc Motorcycle Company. And Donato Emilio, the #2 Italian rider who just finished his contract with Fanuc, signed to ride for the Aprilia Company. It'll be very interesting to see how these two riders will perform next year after they swap bikes. While Jordi was taking a break, his older brother borrowed his bike for a few rides. He competes only locally in what would be comparable to the expert class in the USA. Let's take one more look at Mark and check out his moves on this ride. Well, that's just pretty impressive. Spain's number 2 rider, 20-year-old Amos Bilbao, has really improved over last year. He's riding much smoother and more aggressively, and his clutch and throttle techniques are similar to Jordy's. This is his last year on the Fanic also. Next year, he will be the top rider for the Gas Company. We'll take a look at some of his moves later on in slow motion. Let's take a look at that hop turn in slow motion. Notice when he gets up on the rock, he holds the rear brake and simultaneously flips the throttle, pops the clutch, then pulls the bike back and to the left as he just barely releases the rear brake. The front wheel comes down on his target and he's still balanced and ready for the next obstacle. Here Amos uses the splatter technique we explained in the Canadian round, but now there's more section left to ride. Notice how he stops and balances as he comes down off the rock to give him more time to visually pick his line. Most importance is where the rear wheel will be tracking. So he holds the front brake and simultaneously flips the throttle, pops the clutch, and with his body motion pulls the back of the bike over to his left. You can see how he leads with his body and then pulls the bike back under him during this hop. Sometimes hooking the heels of the boots just under the subframe will help to give more lifting action. Here he has to do it again to get the rear wheel on his desired line. In doing a pullback, he keeps the front brake locked during fork compression, then when the body moves back, the brake is released as the forks extend, causing the bike to move backwards. Leg action is an essential part of this maneuver. Finally, notice how he compresses the rear shock, then unloads upward and forward with throttle to get up and over the rock.